Hey guys, it's Brittany with Gardening Made Simple. This series is titled My First Garden. And so if you haven't seen the first video in this series, which was talking about the perfect spot, the first S in our 3S series, then you need to go back and watch it because it talks about the perfect spot for your garden. And we go around to different areas and look at the sun exposure that your garden needs to have. So go back and watch that if you haven't seen it. This video is the second video in our series, and it talks about the second S, which is soil. Soil is a huge component when we're talking about gardening. And so we're going to look at the different textures of soil, and we're going to look at the pH level and what you need to make sure that your plants are as successful as they can be. So that's what we're going to look at on today's video. So come along with me, and if you haven't seen the first video, go back, watch it, and then come back to this one to see what you need as far as soil goes when starting your first garden. Alright, so I first want to show you guys the best type of soil for your first time garden. A lot of times whenever you're starting your first garden, doing a simple garden bed, and this one is a 2x6 garden bed, is a lot of times the best way to get started because you can fill it with good soil right off the bat. And this soil in here is going to be not too fine, but it's going to have a lot of grit to it, so that things so that water is able to flow through it well. It's not going to get stuck in it. Your roots are going to be able to grab on well. This is just a loose type of soil, but it is perfect for growing things in. So this soil you can get just really anywhere if you want to get it in bags, but a lot of landscaping places you can get a truckload to bring it in. And this is just a topsoil that is also mixed with some compost. But this is the perfect type of texture you're looking for when it comes to soil. Not too thick, it's not too much like a clay texture, and it's not too fine like sand. It just has a little bit of both mixed in with it. So I'm going to give you another close-up of what I'm talking about. Alright, so another type of soil that you have to really work with, and it's actually a lot harder to garden in if you don't know what you're doing with it, is red clay. Now, if you live in the Piedmont of North Carolina, we're in zone 7B, then you know all about red clay. It's not impossible to grow in, but you may need to till it a little bit more to get it not so thick, and you will more than likely need to add some sort of amendments to it. I'm going to be adding to my in-ground garden. I will be adding some manure. I will also be adding some wood ash from our fireplace, just to give it a little bit more of the texture I'm looking for, but also get it back to a more slightly acidic / neutral pH. So this is what the thick clay I'm referring to looks like. Alright, so here it is. I just tilled this up yesterday, and so it's still pretty fresh, and so it's going to look thicker than it will actually be, and this is actually a good place over here. But this is thick, so this is a little bit harder to grow in. That's why whenever you're starting off in your first garden, I suggest you get some topsoil and put them in some raised beds, or if you know you have a good area that doesn't have this type of clay, this red really thick clay to it, then you can till that up and use that for your garden. I will say that you will have to take a little bit more care with it as far as adding some amendments to it. But this right here is usable, but for your first time garden may not be the easiest to garden in. Okay, so The pH test that I have here is something that you can get at your local plant nursery or at like a Tractor Supply. You could probably, actually, I know you can get these off of Amazon as well. And so these are $5 to $7, and it's just going to tell you, just as if you were to take a pH level of a pool, it's kind of going to do the same thing as it does with the colors. So I'm going to get some soil, put it in at this line, also put in some, or actually before I put in my water, I'm going to put this capsule. I'm going to break it apart and pour it in there as well. Then put some water up to this line. I'll shake it real good, and then it will turn one of these colors to see what my pH level is for my soil. So also let me go ahead and mention this as well. With most of these kits, you will get a little booklet that will give you the preference for each plant. I will go ahead and say, as a beginner gardener, you're just going to want to keep your pH level at about a 6.5, which would be slight acid, to a 7, which would be neutral. Most plants are going to want to grow in this level here, the light green to like that hunter forest green. So this is for the first time gardener. This is the pH level that you're wanting to kind of stay at. So we're going to see in my raised beds what type of pH level we have. And like I said, if you want to get even more into what each plant needs, most of these tests have these little booklets that will tell you, and it'll also tell you in the booklet how you can put a little bit more acid if you need that for the specific type of plant you have, how to put that into it, or to how to get your alkalinity more if you need that for your plants as well. So, all right, so I just got some soil from my raised beds, and as you can see, it's not it's kind of along the lines of the neutral, so a 7.0, and actually you might be able to see it a little bit better. Yeah, you can see on this side, it's not going to be the darkest green. It's going to be more on this one, and it's not going to be this lighter green. So for a first-time gardener, I would be right on where I'd want to be with the neutral pH. Like I said, most plants that you're going to be planting as a first-time gardener are going to like slightly acidic soil to neutral. So we're right where we need to be when it comes to the pH level. And like I said, this is a really easy way to find out quickly if you have the right type of soil pH for growing your plants. And this is a $5 to $7 little kit for you to, and this is one of those things that you can continue to use year after year. Also, I will say, throughout your growing season, I would just check your soil every once in a while just to see if it's still on that same level. Alright guys, so if this video has been helpful to you and in helping you figure out the best place to have your garden and the best soil to have, then would you consider subscribing and liking below? And don't forget, have fun in the garden. Happy gardening!